On the western coast of Ireland, the ocean acts as something far older than water. It lies there, restless and hungry, an ancient slumbering beast. The people who carved out a living along this desolate coastal road knew the rigid rules of their unforgiving landscape. Their fragile cottages offered the only thin layer of protection between their families and the raw, unfeeling power of the Atlantic. Inside one of those weathered stone walls, two young sisters, Kathleen and Nora, huddled together over a secret. They hold a small, salt-stained bundle of salvaged clothing, a terrible artifact they are desperate to hide from their mother, Moria. The bundle washed ashore far to the north, carrying a dark implication. If these clothes belong to their missing brother Michael, the sea has already claimed him. For this family, survival has devolved into a perpetual, anxious waiting game, dreading the next knock at the door. They do not have long to wait before the tension breaks. The last living son of the house, Artley, steps in. Despite the gale howling outside and a rising tide, he is entirely focused on taking a boat out to the Galway Fair to sell horses. His mother, Moria, is already broken by grief. Sitting by the turf fire, she weeps and pleads with her final son to look at the rising star against the moon and recognize the deadly storm gathering strength off the coast. But Bartley forces his way out the door and into the tempest. As he leaves, Moria cries out in despair, failing to offer him a parting blessing. Her daughters turn on her immediately, horrified that she sent him out into the storm with a hard, unlucky word ringing in his ear. In a landscape governed by the old, unforgiving rules of Irish folklore, rituals matter. Allowing a child to face the elements without a mother's protective blessing is a fatal mistake, a tear in their spiritual armor that invites absolute tragedy. Realizing the danger, Kathleen attempts a desperate correction to cheat fate. She forces Moria out into the howling wind, shoving a fresh bit of bread and a walking stick into her hands, commanding her to intercept Bartley down at the spring well and finally give him her blessing. The second the heavy wooden door clicks shut behind their mother, the sisters drop their act. They scramble to the chimney corner, retrieve the salt-stiffened bundle, and frantically cut the perished string holding it together. This text shows exactly what they find inside. Pushing past a plain shirt, Kathleen pulls out a bit of a stocking. They examine the wet flannel eagerly. Looking closely at the fabric, Nora realizes there are 70 stitches, and specifically that 4 of them are dropped. It is an undeniable flaw that she knit with her own hands. That simple dropped stitch seals their doom. It is absolute proof that Michael is dead, completely erasing any lingering hope. Worse, it means that Bartley is now the sole surviving son, riding out entirely unprotected against a sea that has already tasted his bloodline. Before the girls can fully process their grief, Moria returns. She shuffles back into the cottage slowly, trembling with terror, the ungiven bread still clutched tightly in her hands. She recounts her journey down to the spring well. She stood there alone, waiting in the biting chill, until Bartley finally approached, riding down the path on his red mare. She tried to call out the blessing, to offer the simple words that would shield her son, but a sudden, unnatural terror seized her throat. The words physically choked in her mouth, paralyzing her completely as he rode past. A deeper terror froze Moria's voice as she watched her drowned son, Michael, riding silently behind Bartley on a pale gray pony. In this world, the dead do not ride alongside the living without a purpose. The phantom on the gray pony is an absolute omen. It signals that the sea has already claimed its victory, and the family's tragic fate is locked in place. The grim reality of that vision soon spills into the cottage. Old women from the village begin to file through the doorway in a slow, eerie procession. Dressed in red petticoats, they cross themselves and kneel, keening softly like a chorus of ghosts. Then, the undeniable physical proof of Moria's vision is carried inside. Men follow the weeping women, bearing Bartley's lifeless body on a plank, draped with a bit of a sail. The village women whisper the brutal method of his death. Down by the shore, the gray pony, the very same animal carrying Michael's ghost, knocked Bartley directly into the sea, washing his body violently against the churning white rocks. The ocean has finished its work. The phantom at the spring signaled the final stage of a tragedy that was already set in motion, executing itself with perfect, ruthless precision. Yet, in the face of this absolute devastation, Moria's reaction shifts entirely. She doesn't scream or shatter into hysterics. Instead, she moves with a slow, deliberate calmness, quietly taking Michael's salvaged clothes and draping them gently across Bartley's lifeless feet. Her stillness stems from a profound, terrifying realization. With her husband, his father, and all 6 of her sons drowned, the ocean has finally emptied her home. The ravenous East has taken everything it possibly can. It has no teeth left to harm her. Reading her final monologue, we see this methodical acceptance. She sprinkles holy water over her last son, declaring that she will finally have a great rest. She embraces the long, dark nights ahead, no longer needing to pray in terror when the wind rises. Moria has finally escaped the exhausting cycle of fear. With no more sons to lose, the sea's power to haunt her has expired, leaving her in a state of profound, tragic stillness.